When I was an early creator, tax season would come around and I would be like, it's a nightmare. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're talking finances and taxes. Dun, dun, dun. Scary. No, this is a great topic to talk about because everyone always has questions. And I am not the finances and tax expert. So it'll be nice to have someone on here who knows what they're talking about and can give you all the good advice. So we've compiled a list of a bunch of questions that we are going to shoot at Tommy here, and he's going to give us all of his expert knowledge on all of the tax and finance topics. So Tommy works for Prime. And so I met people through Prime at UGC Creator Connect, which if you've been around here, you know that was the conference that I spoke at back in March. And they, just were talking to all of us UGC coaches about we really want to help UGC creators be better with their finances and taxes because just so many creators don't really know where to start and it can be confusing. So we were like, well, let's get you on the podcast. So Tommy, hi, great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. And this is not the most exciting topic that you talk about on the podcast, I know, but it can be one of the most important. So I'm grateful to be here.
Yes, of course. So can you give us a little breakdown of who you are and some more about Prime?
Sure. My name's Tommy Thornburg. I'm the president here at Prime Corporate. We started the company back in 2012, and our initial goal was to help early staged entrepreneurs with entities, business credit, taxes, estate planning. And fast forward to today, we've set up about 200,000 businesses. We file about 30,000 tax returns a year. And we've got about 400 plus employees at this point. So it's been a wild ride, but we still do the same thing. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs in all sorts of different areas and teach and show and guide them how to keep as much money in their corner as possible while protecting themselves.
Love it. Quick question to get us started. What are some of the biggest common mistakes that you see freelancers, creators make with their taxes, or common misconceptions that you see?
Yeah, I'm going to go two of them.
Great.
The first one is a action item. I didn't expect us to jump right into this. Here's your homework. If there's one takeaway, this is what I recommend. Track and organize your expenses. And what I mean by that is get comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable with your finances. It's not the most exciting topic, but if you know every quarter, January, February, March, how much money have you made if you're employed? How much money have you made self-employed? And how much money have you invested into your business-related expenses? Going into the fourth quarter, October, November, December, if you know what your finances look like, you can make much more educated decisions on what you want to do with your money. Maybe it's business travel. Maybe it's a new computer. Maybe it's I need some lighting. It looks like it's dark over here. Maybe we'll do that. iWatch, whatever it may be, right? But it puts you in the driver's seat of making financial decisions. So tracking your expenses is the number one thing I would recommend. Yes. And then number two, people will get into this and just start making money and then not do anything until tax time. Starting and showing yourself as a business, and then as you start to generate income, you can change the way that entity is set up with an S Corp, for instance, that can save you thousands of dollars in taxes. So track your expenses and make sure you are set up properly are the two biggest areas of opportunity that I see in the early stages of people's ventures.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I used to be so scared to look at my money and it just stressed me out so bad. And I was like, well, if I don't look at it,
see you later.
Yeah, it's out of sight, out of mind. But then it would come and bite me in the ass later. But now pretty much bi-weekly I go in and like track all of my expenses, any business expenses, all that stuff, and like personal budget stuff. But it's so helpful because literally when I was an early creator, I just did not do that at all. So then tax season would come around and I would be like, well, I have no idea what I can deduct because I don't know. I don't remember what I did in February of this year or what I bought or what this purchase was. And it's a nightmare. So tracking it at least monthly is a really good way to just stay on top of things. And it does not take that much time, like genuinely, especially in the early stages of your business. It's not like you have a ton of expenses for your business that you have going on. There's probably just a few things you need to make sure that you write down and track. But it will literally save you so much anxiety and headache and time down the line come tax season. And yeah, I did not do that for like the first 2 years of having my business, and it was just always caused me so much stress and anxiety, and I probably lost out on, like, saving a lot of money because I really was not tracking it efficiently. So I cannot recommend doing that enough.
One of the things, so last year, we out of all the tax returns we filed, I had our accountants pull all these different data points on why do some people save more money on taxes than others.
Mm.
And selfishly speaking, I was genuinely like looking for some magic wand that I could come on podcasts like this with you and just share with everyone how to save a bunch of money in taxes. But the number one reason was people that we work with that do track their expenses through Zero, QuickBooks, hire a bookkeeper, one designated credit card, using some sort of a tax app. We can talk more about that as well. But people that actually tracked and organized their expenses saved an average of $9,200 more than they did the previous year. So
Wow.
it is so worth it to make sure you're staying organized with profit and loss for sure.
Yeah. Ooh, love that. So at what point does it make sense for a creator to file an LLC, for their business?
I love this. And I think this could fit into a lot of the common mistakes that we see. Um, I'll start with this. I've got a very biased opinion here. So brace yourself for my biased opinion. My biased opinion is that everyone should be self employed to some extent, whether it's a side hustle, side business, full time self employment. And the reason I say it is because there is no tax code that says you have to be an awesome business owner, but there is tax code that says as long as you show the intent of generating income, you can take business related deductions. So, with content creation in general, I know that you've got it figured out. It's pretty easy to get up and get making something as long as you're following the process.
Yep.
But as soon as you genuinely want to do that and have the intention, why not show that intent by setting up an LLC? Because in best case scenario, you make money, you have the business entity, you lower your tax liability. In worst case scenario, you don't make money, but you can still write off startup and organizational expenses that can help lower your tax liability. So my biased opinion is in the beginning when you have the intent, but at the very least, once you're generating income would be my recommendation.
Love it. And it's really interesting when you look across states how different it is. Like I used to live in California and I had a business and it was like literally $800 a year to keep my business open just in like filing fees and I was like literally what the hell? And then in Colorado it's like 50 bucks to set up your business and 25 bucks a year and you're like, "Wow, this is so much better." So you kind of have to look into it for your specific state and where you live, what that looks like in terms of cost for setting up an LLC. But typically, it's like not that big of a cost unless there's like a couple states that it's a bit of a higher cost. But I feel like, yeah, it's definitely worth it.
California, Massachusetts, New York. There's definitely a handful of states that are more expensive. California's charging you to keep the sun up year round.
Yeah.
They're every state is absolutely a little bit different. I mean, I'm here in Utah, right next to you in Colorado, and it's like 25 bucks up front, 15, 20 bucks a year. It's very, very minimal. So that's a great point. Make sure you look into the states and the requirements for sure.
Yeah. So, what should people be keeping track of? And you kind of mentioned tools and stuff like this, if they're using QuickBooks, whatever. Like, what tools do you recommend for people to use? And then what should they be tracking and how often should they be tracking that?
So there are 4 words that the IRS really loves. And for any of you listening to this that are like, how do I even know if something is business related? These 4 words really help. So the IRS loves ordinary, necessary, helpful, or appropriate. So when you spend a dollar, if it's ordinary, necessary, helpful, or appropriate for you to generate additional dollars, track it as an expense. So that's even things like your phone bill, internet bill, power bill, portions of your rent or your mortgage for the home office, educational costs, software expenses. So anything that you can tie back to ordinary or necessary, make sure you track it. As far as tools are concerned, from a tracking standpoint, there's a really, so I always think about this because my mama, as a mama's boy over here, my mom was a real estate agent and self-employed for years.
Ah, so is mine.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice. That's great. Um, but there's when I always think about, like, if I told my mom to track her expenses with QuickBooks or hiring a bookkeeper, she'd be like, okay, great. And then she wouldn't do it. So there's a really cool app called Keeper Tax. I like it a lot. I have no affiliation with it. You can tie together your bank accounts, your credit cards, and it'll text you at the end of the day. It'll say, Maddie, I saw you had 15 transactions today. Which ones of these are business related?
I love that.
And you just text back 1, 7, 10, 11, and it tracks it for you within the app.
Wow.
It is so cool.
I
It's like
didn't track.
$170 for the year, which
Oh,
is also tax deductible.
not bad.
But that's a great way. QuickBooks, Zero, Bookkeeper, one credit card. Those are all great ways to track those expenses.
Love that. So, what are some common tax deductions for content creators? I know you hit on a couple there, but let's dive a little deeper into that.
So a big one is just even like education. If you're paying to have someone teach you who to reach out to, how to reach out, someone like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're keeping that as a business related expense. I think that's a great one.
Yes.
Software expenses, anything that you're paying for that has a login that you're utilizing for the business. But then everyday expenses, like the reason I'm so passionate about people being self-employed is what a lot of people consider bills can be transitioned into business related expenses. So I'm a big fan of that. And then with UGC specifically, travel, vehicle expenses, a lot of lifestyle type expenses that can become deductible as well. So,
Mhm.
what other expenses are there that people may have that I'm not thinking of?
No, I feel like that's really the main ones. Equipment, like filming
Equipment,
equipment.
cameras, lighting.
I feel like people in my world, they have a lot of questions about travel expenses. And like, is that deductible? How much of it is deductible? How do I deduct that? Because, for example, um, if like last year I went on a trip to Portugal and I pitched brands because I was like, great, I'm going to be in this location and this is a perfect location to film like for these types of products. So I pitched certain brands. And then while I was at the airport, I was filming for like a granola bar brand because they wanted some travel content in an airport. While I was there, I was filming on the beach in Portugal for a different brand. So like while I was there, I was working, but how do you categorize that? Like, is the travel necessary? Can I deduct that? So how does that work?
I love this. This is so good. And there's a couple different schools of thought around this. The first thing is, here's my legal disclaimer.
Mhm.
Please make sure you talk to a professional and please make sure it's aligned with your specific situation. But here's how I'll answer this for you, knowing more about your situation. And
Yes.
also, I'll even include myself in this. So, when you're traveling, if there's business related activity that going back to the ordinary and necessary directly for your business, then yes, I'd say flights, trains, buses, rental cars, anything like that, hotels, Airbnbs, Uber and Lyft is a big one. Your business meals, generally speaking, about half of those become deductible. Are there any internet costs or phone costs while you're at the hotel? Those can all be considered business related expenses.
Yep.
What you want to avoid, and this is probably the more important list, if it's a personal vacation, go have fun and enjoy yourself. If you're bringing family members, so for instance, I'll use myself. Next weekend, I'm going to San Diego and I'm going with my wife and my two little girls. While we are there, we'll look at real estate to potentially purchase. My wife's a real estate agent as well. And because we qualify for real estate status, we're constantly looking at purchasing additional properties. So portions of that trip will be deductible. If I take my girls to Disneyland or to do something fun, I can't write off the personal side. So it's got to tie back together with your business in some way, shape, or form. So for your Portugal trip, I would say portions of it and a lot of those hard costs and expenses for you to get there and back to be able to generate the content. Absolutely, there's portions of that can be a deductible expense.
That totally makes sense. One other kind of situation I'm curious about. So, for example, last year, oh no, this is earlier this year, I went to Edinburgh, Scotland for the sole purpose of a business retreat. So, I was going to learn from a business coach every day, like we were doing business, and I was there for that purpose. Um, in that case, because it was a trip that wasn't necessarily booked for the purpose of pleasure, would the entire thing, including like my meals, everything like that, be a write off? Or is it still like, oh, you kind of got to pick and choose what I'm deducting?
Yes, if I'm going for business related trips, if I'm going to speak at masterminds, if I'm going for education, if I'm going for training, I write off the entire thing as a business trip for sure. That's a great, thank you for bringing that up. It's a phenomenal comparison between the difference of the two. When you were in Portugal, I'm sure you were like traveling around and having fun, and definitely a distinct difference between the two.
Exactly. Yeah. I think people get confused or just like, it- and I even feel this sometimes with the personal trips that are mixed with business. It's like, what do I write off? What do I do? And so I like the thought process of just being like, okay, is this activity or is this meal or is this, uh, flight like directly tied to the business that I have to do, the content that I have to film? If so, yes, great. Okay, let me write it off. But like maybe for 2 of the days I actually just went on like a wine tour with my friends, I probably can't write that off.
Totally. And it's what's interesting about that as well is a lot of it is so relative to your situation. So like for you, you are a full-time content creator.
Yeah.
If someone else is listening to this and 90% of their life and income is a W2 job, right? That's totally different than what it is you're using it for. So the more ingrained you are in your lifestyle business and the more money you generate, the easier it is to justify a lot of those decisions that you're making to build your brand and to build your business in general. I can't go anywhere without talking to people about tax strategy, tax services. We were just talking about booking a trip to Italy, and I'm going with a bunch of friends for their birthday, and it's like a bunch of them are clients. So some of those will be business related meals, some of the travel will be business related.
Hmm.
So planning it out. I joke about this. Thanks to COVID, we all watched way more crime television than we ever wanted to. And we know that we need an alibi. So when you're talking about taxes, the alibi is making sure that you're documenting it and making sure you're tracking who you're with, what you're doing, and who you're doing it for.
Yep. Love that. How do you feel about the expenses that are a bit more debatable or nuanced? So, for example, if I were to get my nails done and I'm like, well, I have to have nice nails because my hands and my nails appear all the time on camera in what I'm doing for my clients. Or, for example, I know like big influencers and people who they have this very like luxury lifestyle and like their whole brand is like them living this lifestyle and having this certain persona. And so it's like, they'd be like, oh, like my brand new car or whatever that I always film content in and like live up to this lifestyle, like the car's a write-off because it appears in all my content and it's part of like my brand. I'm curious how you feel about those types of things.
Yep. We kind of joke about this around here. We call it leather boots, Gucci shoes, leather boots. A lot of it that is considered to just be like luxury type items, lavish or unreasonable costs in comparison to what you can do,
Mhm.
oftentimes don't count. If you're purchasing just any day clothing, it probably isn't going to count.
Yep.
But if it's tied back to your brand, if you have your logo tied to it,
Mm.
those will be business related expenses. As far as the hair, the makeup, the nails, very commonly asked this question as well. It could be portions of it depending on your brand and what you're actually using it for.
Mhm.
Um, what we want to be able to weigh is the risk versus reward.
Yeah.
So, what is the risk of the potential audit depending on the amount of money and how much is it really impacting your business? There are absolutely ways that those can be deductible expenses, but make sure you have a game plan with who's going to file your taxes because it does increase your chance of audit a little bit.
Mhm.
And we don't want to make mistakes or try and pull a quick one by the IRS.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the tax code is such a joke. It's over 70,000 pages. So there's areas of opportunity to utilize deductions like that. We just got to make sure we're working with someone that can put a game plan together for you.
That makes sense. What are some of the higher level deductions you see work for people?
So about 8 or 9 months ago, we released a new service that we call the Decoder. It is so cool. I need to do this for you, by the way. I haven't even talked to you about this. So you upload your previous year's tax return. So once your 25s are filed, if they already are, great. We can upload it into this AI bot that we've created, and it'll pull out all the areas of your life. So content creator, dog, all the things that are in the tax code. It'll tell you 5 to 20 different strategies that you could be implementing that you're not currently.
That's cool.
So health savings accounts for people that have high deductible insurance plans. HSAs are great tax strategies. Vehicle expenses are oftentimes underutilized. Those of you with kids, how can you put your kiddos to work? Get them on payroll, use it as a deduction. There's a really cool Augusta rule where you can rent your house out from your business up to 14 days a year tax free.
Hmm.
And that's a great deduction. I think that was like a $46,000 write off for me last year
Wow.
on just that one tax strategy. So those are a couple that are very common and that are higher level. And I call those ones good problems to have. It's more money, more problems. They are good problems to have. And it allows you to go find tax codes that truly align with your life.
Love that. So, as creators, we kind of have to be self responsible for paying our taxes, setting aside taxes, all of that. How do you recommend people go about that? So, like, how much should they be putting aside for taxes? Where should they be keeping that money? Those kinds of things.
This is really good. So this all stems back to your homework that I gave you in the beginning is tracking your expenses. I didn't mean to give you homework, but that's it. Um, the more that you understand what your profit and your loss is, the easier it is to understand what your potential tax liability is. So on active income, when you're doing content work, active income is taxed between 10 and 37% on the federal level. If you are in California, New York, Massachusetts, one of these higher, you have state tax on top of it. So usually setting aside 20 to 30% is what a lot of people do from a tax standpoint. But you want your money to work for you as well. So if you can have it in a savings account that you're getting interest off of, that's now putting your money to work. And I think it's a great strategy. Um, the more aware of your profit and loss that you are, the easier it is going into the fourth quarter and deploying capital into marketing, into education, into everything that we've already talked about to this point to help lower your tax liability. So if you're not going to track your expenses, if you're not overly organized, set aside 20 to 30%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But if
love
you
the idea of putting it in like a high yield savings account or something too. So it's like making money for you.
totally, yeah, put your money to work. That's how the rich keep getting richer. Is it's a matter of finding these tax codes that can help lower your tax liability while also making sure that your money is working for you, whether it be in a CD, high yield savings account. There's a lot of great things you can do that way as well.
hmm Love it. So, as creators, we often receive income from different places. So, some brands might pay us through direct deposit, some brands might pay us through PayPal, Venmo. Like, there's so many ways that we get paid just depending on how the brands work and how they pay us. So, what does that look like? Like, it comes tax season. What kind of forms do I need to be looking out for? How am I tracking that? Because I mean, as I found it, it's different between just like tracking my income that I've received through direct deposit versus like if I'm receiving money through a platform. So, could you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Totally. So a couple years ago, this unfortunate law got passed that if you're getting paid and it accumulates to be over $600, you're supposed to report it. So generally speaking, Venmo, PayPal, what will happen at the end of the year if you're accepting income through platforms such as those? They will issue you a 1099K form. And then what you do is with that 1099K form, it ends up getting filed on a Schedule C with your 1040 tax return. So that's the technical way that it all happens. But what I recommend from more of a practical standpoint, as you're getting money for these jobs, the more that you remember that if you end up doing a job and get paid $500 for it, track the date, where it was coming from, the dollar amount, and add that to your overall income when you're thinking about your profit and your loss.
Mhm.
And then these platforms will send you a tax form. If they don't, you might have to reach out and request it. But generally speaking, that's how it'll work. You still have the tax liability, even if someone's Venmoing you for a post that you make. There is still tax that's on those. So we want to make sure you're aware of those throughout the year.
Mhm. And a question I get asked a lot, and I found this funny, is creators will be like, "A brand asked me to send a W-9. Like, is that sketchy? Is that weird? Whatever." And I'm like, "No, that's normal." So like, can you explain why a brand would ask for a W-9 and what that means on the back end comes come tax season?
I would say the opposite. I think if a company's asking you for a W-9, it's probably less sketchy because
Yeah.
they want the tax deduction that we're talking about throughout this recording. When they ask for a W-9, they're going to ask, and that's where I think it's so important as well to ask, set up that LLC in the beginning and show yourself as a business. Because when they send you the W-9, you can use your business name, you can use your EIN number. That way, you're not using your personal information like your name and your social security number. But the reason they want the W-9 is so that when they pay you $1,000 for these posts, they can take the tax deduction themselves as a business related expense. And you are supposed to do that if it is over $600. So I love that your people are asking you about that. It means they're getting some good paying jobs. So that's a win. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, so true.
Hey there, travel UGC creator. Did you know that your best content ideas are already hidden in the content you've previously shared? That's right. Most of the time, we find ourselves scrambling for new content ideas when really we should just be looking at our analytics of what's worked well for our audience and rinse and repeat. I'm Laura and I host the Travel Creator Podcast, and over there we talk so much about making content creation sustainable and freaking easy because there's no BS here. We know that content creation can be really tough. So the next time you are wondering what the heck to post, go back and look at your top performing posts. Go back and look at the top 10 and ask specific questions about who they were for, what they were answering, and why they performed well. You can also do this with new UGC clients you are pitching or new UGC video ideas. So back to Maddie, but I'll see you over on the Travel Creator.
I don't think we covered this yet, but the tax implications on products. So whether that is a gifted collab, whether like let's say a brand is even paying me $1,000, but then they're also sending me $300 worth of clothing. How am I taxed on the clothing? How does that work?
Great question. So generally speaking, no, they would be writing that off as a gift or as product if they're sending you that. If they're including it, however, let's say that you work out a deal where you get 50% money, 50% product, then yes, that would become part of that deductible expense in value. But if they're paying you $1,000 and they're sending you the clothing as a thank you, or use this clothing, here's your $1,000 for doing it, here's the clothing we would like you to use, that's a big differentiator. If they're including it part of the deal, yes, taxable. If they are not, it would be separate. And that is their responsibility to deal with writing that off for the gift that they gave you to be able to pay you to film the content.
How do we know as creators, like how they're categorizing it or handling it? Is that something we should be asking them?
I would absolutely know that, because it's really interesting. I haven't even thought about this. It would be pretty easy for a group to say, okay, Maddie, I'll give you $1,000 and I'm going to send you out some clothes included with it, and you get $800, and they give you the $200 worth of clothes, right? That would probably be pretty frustrating for you. But if they're asking for that and they're separating it out, I think a good way to avoid it is actually requesting that W-9 form, because when you get the W-9 or when they fill it out, they're going to send you a tax form. If they're asking for a W-9, if it's over $600, they're going to send you a tax form based off of what that income was. So that's an easy way to just take the thought process out of knowing what you should or shouldn't qualify to file taxes on.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about, because I know a lot of people on here do more travel-based collaborations. So let's say someone works with a hotel and they're getting a gifted stay. They're not getting paid, but they are doing it as a trade. So let's say they get 3 free nights at a hotel, and in exchange, they're giving that hotel 2 videos and 5 photos for their marketing. What are the tax implications on that?
Yeah, great question. Generally speaking, if they're not sending you a tax form, that's looked at as a gift. So because I didn't gain any monetary value from those hotel stays, I would not be looking at filing a tax return off of those 3 days, because I did not gain any capital asset other than these gifts of these 3 days to film that. So if it's in the form of gifts, it's their tax responsibility to say that they gave you those gifts, and they're probably going to write off that value of those 3 days stay, but you did not receive the dollars that would be proof that you have taxable income that's on top of it.
Yeah. And to know if they're kind of looking at that as a gift, would it be if they didn't ask for a W-9, then they're probably not going to be like doing anything with that? Like they're not going to be sending you a tax form?
Correct. Yeah. So what's really interesting about this, like I'm going to compare this to real estate, because everyone knows how real estate works. And I know your mama forced you to know how it works too, because that's what mine did. So if you have a rental property and you hire a cleaner, if you are not getting a W-9 from your cleaner and paying that cleaner, are they or are they not paying taxes? Because you still want to write off the cost of that cleaner. But if you write it off and they don't claim taxes, your chance of running into issues increases. So using that as the same example with this, if you're not working with companies that are asking for W-9s, they're probably not going to send you tax forms. Is it a gift? What is it that we're working with? Like the W-9 really is the form that creates the clarity on what you should be filing from a tax standpoint.
Yeah. That's so helpful. I feel like even just we talk to so many, I don't know, there's different tax podcasts and all this stuff that we listen to, and I feel like people have different opinions of things because again, the tax code, what are we even looking
So
at?
complex. It's over
Yeah.
70,000 pages. It's insane.
Literally. And so I think this is a topic that creators get big confused on because they're like, am I being taxed on products? Am I being taxed on a hotel stay? I have no idea. And so like I think this is a good way to kind of break that down.
Yep. I think it's great. And that's it. Once again, it all comes back to who you're working with, and it comes back to tracking on those expenses. But if someone sent me clothes instead of money, I'm not filing taxes on it because I want money, not clothes. And depending on what it is that you're doing it for, I think it's a good way to look at it.
Yes, true. Okay. Are there any, I guess other than what we've already talked about, resources, tools you recommend for finances, taxes stuff for creators?
I would say that the last thing that I would just add to this is like, um, when you're getting into a business like this, credit is such an amazing tool. And if we think about this from a what's your personal and what's your business aspect, you have your legal name, your social security number, and your personal FICO credit score. Do the same thing for the business. You've got your business name, you've got your EIN, that's your employer identification number, and you can create a personal credit profile. Whenever we set up LLCs or have services that we work with people, we have a portal called Prime 360 where you could enter in all of your business information to keep yourself organized. I think it's a great way to not only remember where your documents are, set up a separate bank account, but then as you get your own insurance and do this full time, or as you start making investments into your own retirement accounts, health savings accounts, have a way to organize those because you're never going to forget your first content deal, but you're never going to remember your 25th. So the more that you can continue to keep yourself organized on the finances that you have in place, there is not a magic wand to keep track of them, but I love our portal and it's been created for entrepreneurs just like yourselves to be able to maximize on keeping themselves organized to make decisions to better their financial future.
Love that. Is there anything else we didn't hit on that you wanted to cover?
The four main things that we do: entity formation, estate planning, trust, wills, living wills, tax filing, tax prep. I talked about this just a second ago with credit, but we also help people build and develop business credit and corporate funding. And I think that with content creation and with successful people in general, it oftentimes isn't the money, it is the lifestyle. And a lot of that lifestyle is tied back directly to credit. So get an airlines card that you're going to use. I live next to a Delta hub. So I have a Delta card where I can receive miles, and I haven't paid for an airline ticket in years because of it. How can you get a cashback card? Like, what do you prioritize? And how can you align your life with the goals of what you're trying to accomplish, whether it be cashback, flights, hotels? Use credit because it's an amazing tool that can really, springboard you forward without having to just come out of pocket for those expenses. That's the only other thing I would add is it's not what you make, it's what you keep from a tax standpoint. How do you maximize the taxes? And then how do you set yourself up for the future on the goals that you genuinely have in place, whether it's retirement accounts, doubling down on your business, investment opportunities. Just be clear and reprioritize your life every year because it constantly is going to change on what your priorities really are.
Love it. So I set up a link with Prime. So I will link that in the show notes for you guys, but they are offering consultations. So if you are like, I want help with business formation, I have questions about all of these things that we've been talking about, and you want more like personalized help with that stuff, I have a link that you can click to book that. And Tommy, can you give them a little bit of an overview of like what those consults look like?
Yeah, totally. So what's the catch? The catch is we are a business. Our services do cost money, but please make sure you use that link because anything from Maddie, all the services are discounted. In addition to that free consultation itself, it is for you. Hopefully this podcast gave you a little bit of insight on what we're going to be covering. Hopefully it got you turning your wheels a little bit on what you could do to maximize your situation. But everyone's situation is so different. So that calls 45 minutes to an hour. It's a one-on-one Zoom call with one of our advisors, and they'll just talk to you like a normal person. Where are you currently? What are your goals? What do you have in place? And then here's where I feel that we could benefit you, whether it's entity formation, business credit development, tax savings. And our kind of business philosophy is hopefully we can bring you enough value to earn your business and work together long term.
Love it. Yeah, I really, really recommend booking a consult because even in my mind, it's like, okay, great. I can show up and again, every situation is so different. So me being on this podcast being like, okay, if I went on this trip to Portugal and I did XYZ and I like, what can I write off? What can I not write off? Getting clarity on some of that stuff. And then it's like, okay, great. Actually, I want to move forward with you guys and get help with forming my LLC, figuring out all that stuff, figuring out tax prep. Like all that is so helpful just to have an expert literally for your personal situation being like, this is what you're supposed to do. And these are the next steps and like all this stuff and hand holding you through that versus just listening to a podcast and being like, oh, okay, like that all is helpful, but also I do have all these specific things that I'm just not totally sure about. And personally, I've just found calls like that very helpful and it's just eased a lot of my stress around, am I doing this right? Is this what I'm supposed to be deducting? And so it can just help a lot with peace of mind.
Totally. That's what it's all about. It's all these things, all these finances, they're all tools in your belt for the future, whether you're just getting started or you're generating a bunch of money. No one cares about your money more than you do. I always laugh when financial planners are like, let me manage your money. I only make money if you make money.
Mhm.
Like, oh, are you going to lose money if I lose money? I don't think so, right?
No.
So you don't have to be an expert in everything, but if you know enough to be able to ask educated questions, I think it goes a long way. So very well said.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tommy. This was a great conversation. I think people find a lot of value out of this. For everyone listening, I hope you gained some insight. If you are interested in booking that free consult with them, I will link that below in the show notes. Other than that, where can they find Prime? Where can they connect with you guys? All that.
Yeah, Prime Corporate Services, everything on Instagram, on Facebook, the whole 9 yards. On Instagram, we try and give you tax tip reminders, and Instagram is probably the best place for us, but we are here and we are happy to help. So if you ever have any questions or anything else, reach out. And other than that, I'm stoked. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tommy.
All right.
Thanks for listening, you guys. See you in the next episode.